want to get off their darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. Earth from a bird's eye view. You should grow feathers and see this too.
This is my 2000 Volvo V70 Cross Country. It cost about as much as a decent laptop, but it's got heated seats and gets me to work. So, was it a good deal? Well, no. The car is definitely no longer $800, so I'm not sure if you could say that it's that great of a deal. Now let me explain. When I first picked up the car, it needed a heater core, which is a cheap cheap part, not a very fun job. Then it needed tires, which I picked up some for around $350. Then it needed brakes, which were around $300 to do. It never quite ran 100% either. Are you seeing a pattern here? In order to try and track down this problem, I replaced the throttle body, injectors, O2 sensors, a couple of other things, the mass airflow sensor, and eventually I tracked it down, all to the tune of around $1,100. So, all in all, I'm into the car for a little over $2,600 to get it running perfectly. It's got new tires, new brakes, and it runs great. The interior is also extremely clean. The exterior is surprisingly free of dents, and the paint's in fairly good condition too. Now, the only remaining problem is that this cross country, which is supposed to be all-wheel drive, is currently not all-wheel drive. I bought it without the rear drive shaft being hooked up, so to speak. It doesn't have one, because the all-wheel drive system and or the drive shaft itself, the previous owner must have taken it off because it was defective. Unfortunately, it's likely going to be prohibitively expensive to replace that, so for now, the car's staying front-wheel drive, and that's fine. It doesn't hurt anything else, it's just not all-wheel drive like it's supposed to be. Now here's the issue. You can definitely get a cross-country with working all-wheel drive for less than $2,600 to $3,000. That's the issue here. And you'll probably be able to get one that has lower mileage and didn't have a lot of the other issues that this one had too. So this goes to show you kind of that idea that an $800 car is not really an $800 car, no matter which way you spin it. You're always going to fix or be fixing something or tracking something down to try and make the car perfect. And that's just the unfortunate truth about these level of cheap cars. I'm not talking $2,000, $3,000. There you can get a car that's not going to be braking all the time. $800? Not so much. And I found that out. I knew it already, I just bit the bullet because I actually liked the car so much to begin with. So if you do go looking for one of these cross countries or just the all-wheel drive Volvos in general, make sure you check it out really well, especially if it's one of these cheaper cars, because the all-wheel drive system can be a big ticket item. Just the drive shaft alone is $500. The bevel gear can be $1,000 to fix. So check that out. And then also stuff like the throttle body, make sure it's running right because they're not that cheap to fix. It's not like a Camry or something. It's still a European car. It's a little cheaper than like an Audi or a BMW, especially if you do the work yourself, but it's by no means super cheap. Don't let my experience with this cheaper car fool you though, or give you the wrong impression, because these cars are extremely stout, like drivetrain-wise. The weakest link is the transmission, although this one has almost 200,000 miles on it, and it really has no issues with the transmission. The engine is absolutely bulletproof. Some supporting things, sensors, injectors, stuff like that is naturally going to go like it will on any car, but the block itself, the turbo, everything is just extremely reliable. It's at 200,000 miles, and this thing runs fantastic. Also, one thing to note is that the all-wheel drive system is actually quite reliable so long as you keep the same tire at all four corners. A lot of the time these systems will break when people start running a different tire, say from the front to the back, because the all-wheel drive system can't really handle that. So, how does a stock V70XC drive or handle? Well, imagine something between a van and a big sedan. The steering is numb. You have to put in a lot of input to get it to go anywhere, and it wants to understeer extremely badly. Oddly enough, the body control is fairly good. It doesn't roll that much in the corners, but all it wants to do is push. If you start to drive this car fairly hard, you're just going to get understeer and you're just going to get push constantly. So it's not exactly the most dynamic handling in the world, but these cars aren't known for that. They're known for safety. And Volvo built that understeer into this chassis. But you can correct some of that with a good set of summer tires, and then also sway bars. Sway bars make a huge difference in these cars, because the sway bars are a way in which Volvo went about making this car so safe as in terms of handling. They put these softer sway bars on so that it tended towards more understeer than anything else. So if you get, say, IPD sway bars, you'll see that the handling changes pretty drastically, actually. So that's something that I'm going to be looking to do in the future, and something that you can do on your V70 if you decide that you want to handle a little bit more sporty. Where this car really shines, though, is the ride quality. Over uneven surfaces, this is an extremely, extremely soft car. You barely feel the bumps as you're going over it. The suspension takes the overwhelming majority of that impact, and then you're also, with these stock 15-inch wheels, running quite a bit of rubber. So between that and the soft suspension setup, it makes a very comfortable daily driver. That has to be one of my favorite things about this car so far, is just the level of comfort that you get in ride quality. So it's obviously not a sports car, and no one should really expect it to be. It's a Volvo wagon. However, something surprising, I guess not surprising if you know about these cars, this 5-cylinder is a fantastic enthusiast engine. It's not the most powerful thing in the world. It's 190 horsepower thereabouts, but the characteristic of it is just so much fun. You get a good noise, good turbo shove around 3,000 to 4,000 RPM. It doesn't really like to be wound out quite that much, like it doesn't rev that freely, but it does a good job of picking up pace. Not to mention, this one has a muffler delete, so it's a bit loud. Now, because it's a turbo, it can be a little bit laggy, especially with this 4-speed automatic. It's a very slow transmission and a little bit clunky. But once you get this thing into the meat of the power band, it picks up pace pretty well, honestly. To me, it feels a bit quicker than a, say, E46 325XI with the 2.5-liter inline-six. Obviously, it's not as dynamic handling-wise, and the transmission is just eons worse. But this 4-speed, it's geared long, so it's great on the highway. Just don't expect it to be sporty. It's not. You don't get Tiptronic, you don't get paddles, you get nothing like that. You can put in 3, 2, 1, which I do sometimes just for fun, but just drive it nice and easy, and it'll be a great transmission. Try to drive it too hard, and you're going to see its limitations for sure. So, unique, punchy 5-cylinder turbo engine, passable handling, but here is what made me fall in love with this car: the interior. It's just fantastic. This car is 17 years old now, but the interior has aged extremely well. It's just such a nice place to be. In terms of comfort, it's unbeatable, for me at least. And this is coming from someone that owned a E60 5 Series BMW for quite some time. So I know luxury cars to an extent. I've driven quite a few Audis as well, but what those cars don't have that this does is just the seat comfort is ridiculous. It's like you are taking your leather recliner in your living room with you out on the road. That is the best part about dailying this car, is you get to sit in this interior. When you get out of this, you don't feel like you went on a long ride. You don't feel any kind of driving fatigue. This makes a very special daily driver, and I never really understood why people fell in love with these Volvos until I owned one myself. It doesn't try to be an Audi or a BMW or a Mercedes. It's not trying to be anything, really. It's just trying to do what it is good at, which is be an excellent daily driver, be unique, be special, be kind of fun in a way. And that's refreshing. I love the fact that it's different. Hell, you could even slap a bigger 16T turbo, do the sway bars, lower it a little bit, put different suspension work into it, and you'll have a car that's actually really fast, too. And that's amazing. So this is such an excellent platform for a daily driver that isn't going to bore you. It's not going to necessarily make you want to get something else or always make you go, oh, I wish I was in my other car. Sure, it's not a sports car, but this is a car that you're going to like to drive. It's comfortable, it makes a good sound. I personally have fallen in love with it. So, at the end of the day, I'm into this 300,000 mile, $800 Swedish wedge for around $3,000. But you know what? I'm cool with that.